Well, greetings! We're back! Welcome to Chapter 8 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. We've got the Potions Master, Severus Snape. This image behind me is not from somebody else. This is my own creation. Because I've gotten addicted to AI-generated art. And this is one of the creations that I made using mage.space. I've got a fun video of Patrick Stewart and pugs that'll just amuse you. So check that out if you're interested in some AI art. It's rather funny. It's a dramatic video that I made of Patrick Stewart and a pug and some pugs traveling through time, being forced into various wars throughout history. It's interesting, but it is not Harry Potter, and we're doing Harry Potter. I can get stuff out of my feet range. Foot space. All right. Yeah, life has been a bit of a struggle lately. Anxiety and pain and stress and stuff. So takes and seizures. So that's why this takes so long to get out. So many are in a month and a half between chapters, because things happen and I'm not able to continue or not able to start. Like yesterday I meant to do the reading, but realized I was out of water and had to go into town, or was that a couple days ago? I don't know. But anyways, let's get back to the Potions Master. Yes, of course. This commentated reading is for those who have already read the books. If you have not read the books on your own, go away. Don't watch these. Go find somebody else. This is for the commentary, to dive into the depths of JK's writing and the oddness, the brokenness of some of it, and some of the interesting characters that we deal with. And of course, now we're getting into the real meat of the story. We're getting into classes, getting into the real magical world and the plots that are evolving around Harry, and how everybody is involved with that. And this guy is very involved with the stuff going on around Harry. So, let us begin Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 8, The Potions Master. There, look! Where? Next to the tall kid with the red hair, because Ron is tall. Whom? Wearing the glasses? Oh, yes. The one of the few, supposedly, one of the few kids at Hogwarts that wears glasses. But if you really look closely at the movies, there are other kids throughout that do wear glasses. I know everybody says there's nobody else that wears glasses. No, there are. There's at least 10 other kids that wear glasses. Did you see his face? Because it's right there. Did you see his scar? Right there. Is it that side or is it this side? Let's see. I don't remember. I got a bump right here though. Whispers followed Harry from the moment he left his dormitory the next day. People lining up outside classrooms stood on tiptoe to get a look at him. Stood on tiptoe to look down upon the short kid. Or doubled back to pass him in the corridors again, staring. Ah, celebrity. Celebrity is as celebrity doesn't want to do. Harry wished they wouldn't, like I said, because he was trying to concentrate on finding his way to classes, which is very difficult in the chaos of the castle. There were 142 staircases at Hogwarts. 142. I bet Hermione told him that. gave him that information from her reading of Hogwarts, a history, a revised history. Wide sweeping ones, narrow rickety ones, some that led somewhere different on a Friday, some with a vanishing step, not just one, but multiple staircases have vanishing steps halfway up that you had to remember to jump. Then there were doors that wouldn't open unless you politely asked or tickled them in exactly the right place. That would have been a fun addition to the movies, instead of them getting lost. We'll see. Let's see. And doors that weren't really doors at all, but just solid walls, just pretending. I doubt that those fake doors were actually fake doors. Some dark secrets behind those fake doors, like the Room of Doom, which is on the Marauders map. It was also very hard to remember where anything was, because it all seemed to move around a lot. The people in the portraits kept going to visit each other, and Harry was sure the coat of arms could walk. The coats of armor could walk. Yes! Piritotum locomotor! I've always wanted to use that spell. The ghosts didn't help either. It was always a nasty shock when one of them glided suddenly through a door you were trying to open. Nearly Headless Nick was always happy to point new Gryffindors in the right direction, but he sent Slytherins in the opposite direction. But Peeves, the poltergeist, was worth 2 locked doors and a trick staircase if you met him when you were late for class. Here's the mention of being late for class. Of course, Peeves. If only we had Peeves. I know, the first actor they had for Peeves passed away. The first one to die. Oof. Most unfortunate. And they didn't replace him, because I guess not that necessary of a character. I think he was kind of necessary. There's a lot of things that Peeves needed to do, like chasing Umbridge out of the castle. But it's trying to avoid Peeves was worth 2 locked doors and a trick staircase to deal with. He would drop waste paper baskets on your head, pull rugs from under your feet, pelt you with bits of chalk, or sneak up behind you, invisible, grab your nose, and screech, "Got your conch?" Okay. Sneaking up behind you, invisible, and reaching around grabbing your nose from behind? He must have gotten Voldemort's nose. He took the nose. Peeves actually got the nose of Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle? No, Tom Riddle. Always those double D's turning into T's. Even worse than Peeves, if that were possible, was the caretaker, Argus Filch. Harry and Ron managed to get on the wrong side of him on their very first morning. How is there a right side of Filch to get on? Filch found them trying to force their way through a door that unluckily turned out to be the entrance to the out-of-bounds corridor on the 3rd floor. So we're back to the first day. After talking about stairs that change directions or go to someplace else on a Friday, now we're back to the Monday or Tuesday that school starts. Before a Friday. Okay. Time changing, getting all twisted around forwards and backwards. It's like a dream. He wouldn't believe that they were lost. Because, the out-of-bounds corridor, the corridor. Oh, me. Oh, God. Are we going to get through this? I'm going to keep trying. Trying not to have seizures. Because it's already taken a month and a half. I don't want to be 3 weeks before I can record again. He wouldn't believe that they were lost. Was sure they were trying to break into it on purpose, and was threatening to lock them in the dungeons when they were rescued by Professor Quirrell, Voldemort, who was passing. Quirrell rescuing Harry. I'm sure Voldy loved to do that. Was laughing his body off in the back of Quirrell's head as he's dealing with Harry and rescuing Harry from Filch. Because I think Filch existed back in Tom Riddle's day. I think he was there. I think Filch is part of the castle. Like Peeves is part of the castle. Filch is the opposite of Peeves. Peeves is chaos. Filch is law. Filch owned a cat called Mrs. Norris, a scrawny, dust-colored creature with bulging, lamp-like eyes, just like Filch's. She patrolled the corridors alone. Oh, just because she looks just like Filch, because owner and pet and two beings live together for an extended period of time. They start to kind of look like each other. Yeah. I actually had a friend in elementary school. Their whole family and their dog had the same face. Like, seriously. You could tell it was their dog by looking at its face and comparing the dog's face to the family's faces. Yeah. She patrolled the corridors alone. Break a rule in front of her, put just one toe out of line, and she'd whisk off for Filch, who'd appear, wheezing, 2 seconds later. Just 2 seconds later. So Mrs. Norris probably wasn't patrolling that much alone, that far alone. If Filch could get there in 2 seconds, even with knowing all the secret passageways of the school better than anyone, except perhaps the Weasley twins, because they had the Marauders map, and could pop up as suddenly as any of the ghosts, because he is a poltergeist. The students all hated him, and it was the dearest ambition of many to give Mrs. Norris a good kick. Kick the cat! It's a great game, Kick the Cat. And then, once you managed to find them, there were the classes themselves. There was a lot more to magic, as Harry quickly found out, than waving your wand and saying a few funny words. Yeah. They had to study the night skies through their telescopes every Wednesday at midnight. Really? And yet we don't get much of this. Ever in the movies. No mention of astronomy. And they're going up to the astronomy tower at midnight and then heading back down at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Who's the... what about no students out of bed after dark, whatever? And they got to go to astronomy class on Wednesday nights at midnight. There's a bit of a plot hole. But to study astronomy at Hogwarts would be amazing. Let's see. And they had to learn the names of the different stars and the movements of the planets. Yes. Which is a lot more than my college astronomy class did. Oy, 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 oy. 3 times a week, they went out to the greenhouses behind the castle to study herbology. With a dumpy little witch called Professor Sprout. Once again, J.K. Rowling calls somebody fat, where they learned how to take care of all the strange plants and fungi, and found out what they were used for. All the strange plants like asphodel and wormwood and bezoars, and that's not a plant. What are the other? Asphodel, wormwood. Well, we'll find out in a few pages. Easily the most boring class was History of Magic, which was the only one taught by a ghost. Professor Benz had been very old indeed when he had fallen asleep in front of the staff room fire. So he was in the staff room. His body. What was that reaction like when the other staff walked in to the staff room the next morning, seeing his body? And maybe his ghost standing above his body. Yikes, yikes, yikes. And okay, so he fell asleep in by the staff room fire. Hopefully didn't catch on fire. Ben got up the next morning to teach, leaving his body behind him in the staff room. Benz droned on and on while they scribbled down names and dates and got Emmerich the Evil and Ulrich the Oddball mixed up, because evilness and oddballity are very similar. And Emmerich and Ulrich. Professor Flitwick. Warwick Davies. Willow. Professor Flitwick, the charms teacher, was a tiny little wizard who had to stand on a pile of books to see over his desk. At the start of their first class, as he took roll, or at this... Trying to keep on going. At the start of their first class, he took the roll call, and when he reached Harry's name, he gave an excited squeak and toppled out of sight. Professor McGonagall was again different. Different? How so? Harry had been quite right to think she wasn't a teacher to cross. Strict and clever, she gave them a talking to the moment they sat down in her class. Not late. There is no mention of them being late. Could you imagine the look on Professor McGonagall's face if we were late? That was bloody brilliant. It turned one of them into a map. A pocket watch or a map. But it was a good way to bring in the getting lost, since they didn't do anything else of actually getting lost. Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts, McGonagall said. Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back. You have been warned. Don't know accidentally transfiguring other students into things like ferrets. Then she changed her desk into a pig and back, not changing herself into a cat, or from a cat into herself, but changing her desk into a pig and back. They were all very impressed. Bloody brilliant. Well, thank you for that assessment. And couldn't wait to get started, but soon realized they weren't going to be changing the furniture into animals for a long time. After taking a lot of complicated notes, they were each given a match and started trying to turn it into a needle. By the end of the lesson, only Hermione Granger had made any difference to her match. McGonagall showed the class how it had gone all silvery and pointy, and gave Hermione a rare smile. A smile from Maggie Smith, Dame Maggie Smith. The class everyone had really been looking forward to was Defense Against the Dark Arts. But Quirrell's lessons turned out to be a bit of a joke. His classroom smelled strongly of garlic, which everyone said was to ward off a vampire he'd met in Romania. Vampire, what was his name? Oh, darn! I can't remember the vampire's name in Half-Blood Prince. Yeah, it's Half-Blood Prince that Slughorn invites a vampire. Or somebody else. Slughorn invites someone who invites a vampire, who eyes the little girls creepily. Because that's what vampires do. Edward. Oh, Cedric. Yes. He'd met a vampire in Romania, because that's where vampires live, in Romania, Transylvania, Romania, and was afraid he would be coming back to get him one of these days. His turban, which he did not have in the Leaky Cauldron, he told them, had been given to him by an African prince. Voldemort's an African prince? Or did he have the turban separately from Voldemort? As a thank you for getting rid of a troublesome zombie. I bet that zombie was Tom Riddle, was Voldemort. But they weren't sure they believed this story, because it's not quite accurate. For one thing, when Seamus Finnegan asked eagerly to hear how Quirrell had fought off the zombie, Quirrell went pink and talked about the weather. Because he didn't want to talk about Voldemort in the back of his head. For another, they had noticed that a funny smell hung around the turban. A funny smell from the back of Quirrell's head. And the Weasley twins insisted that it was stuffed full of garlic as well, so that Quirrell was protected wherever he went. Quirrell's not protected. He's not alone. He is never alone. And why is there a foul smell coming from the back of Quirrell's head? Because Voldemort's face is on the back of Quirrell's head. Spoilers! Yes, spoilers. That's why this is not for the newbies. So, imagine, how difficult must it be for Quirrell to brush Voldemort's teeth on the back of his head? Can you imagine brushing the teeth of a mouth on the back of your head? That would not be the easiest thing to do, I can imagine. Thus why there's a foul smell. It is Voldemort's bad breath. Voldemort's bad breath is coming from the back of Quirrell's turban. Harry was very relieved to find out that he wasn't miles behind everyone else. Lots of people had come from Muggle families, like Seamus Finnegan. Or, was it Seamus? No, Seamus was half and half. Justin Finch-Fletchley. A few others. Can't remember who else was Muggle-born in Gryffindor. No, I think Dean Thomas came from Wizard family. Was Dean Thomas a Muggle? No, I mean, Hermione, obviously. Lots of people had come from Muggle families, and like him, hadn't had any idea that they were witches and wizards. There was so much to learn that even people like Ron didn't have much of a head start. Friday was an important day because stairs went to other places on Friday. It's an important day for Harry and Ron. They finally managed to find their way down to the Great Hall for breakfast without getting lost once, despite the fact that the stairs went to a different place on a Friday. Or maybe that's why they managed to actually find their way, because the stairs actually lined up for them to actually get down there. What have we got today? Sorry. What have we got today? Harry asked Ron as he poured sugar on his porridge. Double potions with Slytherins, said Ron. Snape's head of Slytherin house. They say he always favors them. We'll be able to see if it's true. Because why would they lie about that? Why would anyone lie about that? I don't know. But wish McGonagall favored us, said Harry. Professor McGonagall was the head of Gryffindor House, but it hadn't stopped her from giving them a huge pile of homework the day before. So why would it? Okay, so we're back down at breakfast. Just then, the mail arrived. Harry had gotten used to this by now, within the first week, but it had given him a bit of a shock on the first day, going back in time again. First morning, when about 100 owls had suddenly streamed into the Great Hall during breakfast. And we go from Monday to Friday to Monday to Friday to Monday to Friday to Thursday to Friday to Monday. Get your days straight, JK. See, the great the owls were circling the tables until they saw their owners, and dropped letters and packages onto their laps and heads. How does they get to their laps from above when there's a table that should be covering their laps? And they're these odd chairs that they sit in, not on benches, apparently. Hedwig hadn't brought Harry anything so far. She sometimes flew in to nibble his ear and have a bit of toast before going off to sleep in the owlry with the other school owls. This Friday morning, however, she fluttered down between the marmalade and the sugar bowl and dropped a note onto Harry's plate, onto his plate of porridge. Oh, the letter gets all soggy. Harry tore it open at once. It said in a very untidy scroll, "Dear Harry, I know you get Friday afternoons off, so would you like to..." Oh, man. Not quite getting my Hagrid. "So would you like..." Oh. Not that grovelly. "So would you like to come down and have a cup of tea with me around 3? Oh, I want to hear all about your first week. Send us an owl and answer back with Hedwig. Hagrid." Harry borrowed Ron's quill, scribbled, "Yes, please, see you later," on the back of the note, and sent Hedwig off again. It was lucky that Harry had tea with Hagrid to look forward to, because the potions lesson turned out to be the worst thing that had happened to him so far. So Friday is the first day that they have potions? Wow. Only once a week they have potions? Or did school not start on a Monday? I don't recall. But either way, he doesn't get to see Snape until the end of the week. Which is probably why it's double potions. Because they only have one day a week. Oh, okay, I gotta medicate. Oh, this is not... No! Alright. And another sip of my now cold coffee. At the start of term banquet, Harry had gotten the idea that Professor Snape disliked him. By the end of the first potions lesson, he knew he'd been wrong. Snape didn't dislike Harry. He hated him. Snape, Snape, Snape. Why do you have to just... Such a... Get over it, dude. Seriously. Just freaking get over it, man. It's been 10 years. I know. Bringing back all the old memories. But he's rude to everybody. He's seriously mean to every student. Nobody likes him. Except for the Slytherins. Potions lessons took place down in one of the dungeons. It was colder here than up in the main castle, and would have been quite creepy enough without the pickled animals floating in glass jars all around the walls. I was not able to get a decent image of the actual potions classroom. It just didn't generate right. It took a lot of time to get an image this good, or this usable, without it being just Snape's head, Alan Rickman's head, this big in frame. Like, seriously, it was this big, which is glorious to see Alan Rickman like that. Alan Rickman. Oh. But it wouldn't work for a background. This is done in the style of Jim Kay, who did the illustrated books for Harry Potter 1 through 5. Sadly, due to his mental health issues, which I totally understand, he's not going to be continuing 6 and 7. But just sad. But I understand it's important to take care of your mental health, which is partly why it takes me so long to read through these and to get through all this stuff. Oy. I need to lock in my white balance sometime. Anyways. Yes. Snape, like Flitwick, started the class by taking the roll call, and, like Flitwick, he paused at Harry's name. But Flitwick squeaked and fell off his chair. And Snape reacted like Flitwick did? Did Snape squeak and fall off his chair upon reading Harry's name? I want to see Severus Snape in shock and awe and squeaking and falling off his chair at the name of Harry Potter. Ah, yes, he said softly. Softly. Ah, yes, Harry Potter, our new celebrity, he said softly. Because, Dumbledore says something calmly. He's yelling it. Do you put your name in the goblet of fire? Dumbledore said calmly. Draco Malfoy and his friends Crabbe and Goyle, who we did not get to see sorted, sniggered behind their hands. Snape finished calling the names and looked up at the class. His eyes were black, like Hagrid's, but they had none of Hagrid's warmth. They were cold and empty and made you think of dark tunnels. Because Snape has no love. His love is lost. He lost his love through his own fault. I really read. I don't know what to do about that. Maybe I can fix it in post. You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making, he began. He spoke in barely more than a whisper, but they caught every word. Like Professor McGonagall, Snape had the gift of keeping a class silent without effort, like Professor Binns as well, but for a completely different reason. Oh. As there is little foolish wand waving here, many of you will hardly believe this is magic. I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of the softly simmering cauldron with its shimmering fumes and the delicate power of liquids that creep through human veins, bewitching the mind, ensnaring the senses. I can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, even put a stopper in death. If you aren't as big a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach. More silence followed this little speech. Harry and Ron exchanged looks with raised eyebrows. Hermione Granger was on the edge of her seat and looked desperate to start proving that she wasn't a dunderhead. "Potter," said Snape suddenly, "what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Oh. This is a short chapter. I'm hoping to be able to make it through it in one day. That would be nice to make it through this short chapter in one day. But we shall see. Okay. So, we got the important line of, "Potter, what would I get if I added a powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Oh, I wrote that down. If I wanted to take notes on this meaning, it is, an asphodel is a type of lily meaning regret or loss, something. And wormwood is something regarding death. Before I started smoking cannabis for my seizures, I actually used wormwood. Smoked some wormwood, and smoking wormwood actually helped my seizures a bit. Not as much as the cannabis, but a little. Damiana was better than wormwood. Together, it was pretty good. But cannabis is better. But anyways, the powdered root of asphodel and wormwood means I bitterly regret the death of Lily. Yes, something like that. Powdered root of what? To an infusion of what? You've never heard of these things before. Harry glanced at Ron, who looked as stumped as he was. Ron haven't heard of these things. Hermione's hand, however, has shot into the air. Bang! "I don't know, sir," said Harry. Snape's lips curled into a sneer. "Tut, tut. Fame clearly isn't everything. Not clearly fame isn't everything." He ignored Hermione's hand. "Let's try again. Potter, where would you look if I told you to find me a Bezoar?" Because Snape wants to embarrass Harry. Right away, just start bullying the kid. Hermione stretched her hand as high into the air as it would go without her leaving her seat. But Harry didn't have the faintest idea what a Bezoar was. Nope. But it is very important. Vital. He tried not to look at Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle, who were shaking with laughter. They know what a Bezoar is? They know what these things are? "I don't know, sir." Thought you wouldn't open a book before coming, Potter? Harry forced himself to keep looking straight into those cold, dark eyes. He had looked through his books at the Dursleys. Yes, he looked through A History of Magic and found the name for Hedwig. But he didn't look through Most Potency Potions, which is not assigned yet. Yes. But did Snape expect him to remember everything in 1,000 magical herbs and fungi? Hermione does, and apparently Snape did as a kid. Hermione was still, or Snape was still. Oh my goodness. Oh, come on. Come on. Because we still got to get through Hagrid's hut. Yeah, I've gone red in the camera. I feel this red. Ow. Oh. Okay, this is gonna have to be a two-part. I'm sorry. I gotta figure this out. I gotta get stabilized, and I don't know how long it's going to take. I might need to eat something, because I missed dinner last night and haven't had breakfast yet, also. So, I'll be back hopefully today. Hopefully. Oh, hello. It has not been a few hours. It has not been a few days. I don't even know if I could really say it's only been a few weeks since I last read the first part of this chapter. I believe it's been more than a month. I think. It's the end. It's middle, like the 19th of November now. Is that a holiday? November 19th? Or is it just June 19th? I don't know. Anyways, back. Life has not been going well. Got a parking ticket for parking where I was parking overnight at the previous spot, and that's partially why it's taken so long to get back to this, and just trying to find myself stability. But we're gonna keep going, keep trying, keep wanting to do this, because you know. But me. It's been a while. I believe we left off with did Snape expect Harry to remember everything in 1001 magical herbs and fungi? Ooh, okay. Snape was still ignoring Hermione's quivering hand. What is the difference, Potter, between monkshood and wolfsbane? I am definitely out of practice now. I gotta get my groove going. At this, Hermione stood up, her hand stretched toward the dungeon's ceiling. Crazy Hermione. I don't know, said Harry quietly. I think Hermione does, though. Why don't you try her? Oh, Harry. Arch. A few people laughed, myself included, and everybody else was reading the book, hopefully. If you didn't laugh at that, tell me why. Harry caught Seamus's eye. And the romance begins, and Seamus winks. The romance has returned. Snape, however, was not pleased. He didn't want to be the third wheel. Oh, let's know. Sit down,
he snapped at Hermione. "For your information, Potter, Asphodel and Wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the Drought of Living Death. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat, and it will save you from most poisons. Important information to remember later. As for monkshood and wolfsbane, they are the same plant. So then why are you asking this? Just to be a jerk, which also goes by the name of Aconite, which I believe the wolfsbane and Aconite also means something. I don't remember what now. I don't know where that piece of paper is. I'm not going to look for it now. Well, why aren't you all copying this down on the piece of paper that's somewhere over there? But in the movies, Harry was copying it down. In the books, he's not taking notes. In the movie, he was taking notes. And so for Snape to snap at him for taking notes on what Snape is saying, pretty ridiculous. Why aren't you all copying that down? There was a sudden rummaging for quills and parchment. Over the noise, Snape said, "And a point will be taken from Gryffindor House for your cheek, Potter. Not 5 points, 1 point." Things didn't improve for the Gryffindors as the potions lessons continued. Snape put them all into pairs and set them to mixing up a simple potion to cure boils. He swept around in his long black cloak, watching them weigh dried nettles and crush snake fangs, criticizing almost everyone except Malfoy, whom he seemed to like. Sucking up to his father. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs, when in clouds of acid green smoke and a loud hissing filled the dungeon. Neville had somehow managed to melt Seamus's cauldron into a twisted blob. So he didn't use his own cauldron, and their potion was seeping across the stone floor, burning holes in people's shoes. Well, that's obnoxious. Don't want holes burned in your shoes on the fourth or fifth day of school, depending on what day of the week they started, because it's Friday. Within seconds, the whole class was standing on their stools, while Neville, who had been drenched in the potion when the cauldron collapsed, moaned in pain as angry red boils sprang up all over his arms and legs. Ah, trying to get rid of boils, and he ended up creating boils. "Idiot boy!" snarled Snape, clearing the spilled potion away with a wave of his wand. "I suppose you added the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron off the fire? Now, what is it about porcupine quills being heated in conjunction with all these other things that would cause it to overheat and melt the pot? The pewter pot. I thought pewter had a pretty low melting point. Neville whimpered as boils started to pop up all over his nose. He was going to look worse than Eloise. Midgen? Eloise Midgen, yes. "Take him up to the hospital wing," Snape spat at Seamus. Wow. Then he rounded on Harry and Ron, who had been working next to Neville. "You, Potter! Why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought he'd make you look good if he got it wrong, did you? That's another point you've lost for Gryffindor. Again, why? And this is, again, showing how horrible Snape is. He's blaming others for things that aren't their fault. And just picking on Harry for no reason. Because he knows that Harry doesn't know these things. So he's going to point out that Harry doesn't know these things. Because Snape is a jerk. So, and took 2 points away from Gryffindor. 2 points. Not 5, 2. That was so unfair that Harry opened his mouth to argue, but Ron kicked him behind their cauldron. Ow! Maybe I'll get through this. Oi, there's not much left in this chapter, I'm pretty sure. I want to get through it. Get this one done and so I can upload it and get on to go record the whole thing, clean reading, and then move on to the next. Taking another year to get through this book. Okay, so Ron's kicking Harry from behind the cauldron, out of sight. Don't push it, he muttered. I've heard Snape can turn very nasty. Yeah. As they climbed the steps out of the dungeon an hour later, Harry's mind was racing and his spirits were low. He'd lost 2 points for Gryffindor in his very first week. Just over the whole week. Only 2 points. That's better than the movies gave him. Way better than the movies gave him. Or took from him. Why did Snape hate him so much? Jaffaja. It's all about Jaffaja. Cheer up, said Ron. Snape's always taking points off Fred and George. Can I come meet Hagrid with you? So much better. At 5-3, they left the castle and made their way across the grounds. Hagrid lived in a small wooden house on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. A crossbow and a pair of galoshes were outside the front door. When Harry knocked, they heard a frantic scrambling from inside and several booming barks. The dog's claws on the wood floor. Ooh. Oh, man. Then Hagrid's voice rang out, saying, Back, Fang, back! Fang? Fang? What? Who could be called Fang? Oh, scary. No. Hagrid's big, hairy face appeared in the crack, as he pulled the door open. Hang on, he said. Back, Fang! That's my Hagrid. He let them in, struggling to keep a hold on the collar of an enormous black boarhound. There was only one room inside. Where'd the bathroom? Hams and pheasants were hanging from the ceiling. A copper kettle was boiling on the open fire. Just the kettle was boiling? Not the. What about the content? Was there nothing in the contents? Nothing in the kettle? What? The copper was boiling? That's a very hot fire. That's dragon fire. Just about. A boiling copper. And in the corner stood a massive bed with a patchwork quilt over it. Probably patched. Ouch. Probably a quilt made from other quilts. Make yourselves at home, said Hagrid, letting go of Fang, who bounded straight at Ron and started licking his ears. Like Hagrid, Fang was clearly not as fierce as he looked. "This is Ron," Harry told Hagrid, who was pouring boiling water into a large teapot and putting rock cakes onto a plate. "Boiling water for tea? And rock cakes. Another Weasley, eh?" said Hagrid, glancing at Ron's freckles. Not the hair, but the freckles. "I spent half me life chasing your twin brothers away from the forest." The rock cakes were shapeless lumps with raisins that almost broke their teeth. But Harry and Ron pretended to be enjoying them as they told Hagrid all about their first lessons. Fang rested his head on Harry's knee and drooled all over his robes. Harry and Ron were delighted to hear Hagrid call Filch "that old git." "And as far as that cat, Mrs. Norton," oof, not the southern accent again. "I'd like to I'd like to introduce her to Fang sometime." Ay, ay, ay. It's that darn southern accent for Hagrid. It's problematic for me. "Do you know, every time, every time I go up to the school, she follows me everywhere. Can't get rid of her. Filch puts her up to it." Harry told Hagrid about Snape's lesson. Hagrid, like Ron, told Harry not to worry about it, that Snape liked hardly any of the students. Then why is he teaching? Because it's the safest place for him. Like Trelawney, Snape would be in grave danger outside of the school. At this point in time, anyways. For these last 11 years, 10 years. Yes. But he seemed to really hate me. "Yeah, because of your dad." "Rubbish," said Hagrid. "Why should he? Well, I mean, he hated your father and stuff, but why would he hate you? He hated your father, he loved your mother, and, well, ow." Oh, man. Okay, come on, come on. Yet Harry couldn't help thinking that Hagrid didn't quite meet his eyes when he said that. "How's your brother Charlie?" Hagrid asked Ron. "I liked him a lot. Great with animals." Harry wondered if Hagrid had changed the subject on purpose. While Ron told Hagrid all about Charlie's work with dragons, Harry picked up a piece of paper that was lying on the table under the tea cozy. It was a cutting from Daily Prophet. Gringotts break-in latest. Investigations continue into the break-in at Gringotts on the 31st of July, widely believed to be the work of dark wizards or witches unknown. Gringotts goblins today insisted that nothing had been taken. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied. That's the same day. Wait, nope? They're not saying what vault it is. But we're not telling you what was in there. So keep your noses out if you know what's good for you," said a Gringotts spokes goblin this afternoon. Oh, no. Harry remembered Ron telling him on the train that someone had tried to rob Gringotts, but Ron hadn't mentioned the date. "Hagrid," said Harry, "that Gringotts break-in happened on my birthday. It might have been happening while we were there." "Just after." Ow. There was no doubt about it. Hagrid definitely didn't meet Harry's eyes this time. He grunted and offered him another rock cake. Harry read the story again. The vault had had in fact been emptied that earlier that same day. Hagrid had emptied Vault 713, if you could call it emptying, taking out that grubby little package. Had that been what the thieves were looking for? As Harry and Ron walked back to the castle for dinner, their pockets weighed down with rock cakes they'd been too polite to refuse. Harry thought that none of the lessons he'd had so far had given him as much to think about as tea with Hagrid. Had Hagrid collected that package just in time? Where was it now? And did Hagrid know something about Snape that he didn't want to tell Harry? The end of that chapter. Finally, 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 finally. Ow. Um, I am crap ton of pain. I'm having seizure, fighting off seizure. So now that I've completed this chapter, I'm gonna get it up, and spend the rest of the day try dealing with the seizure. Okay, thank you for joining me. Like, subscribe, comment. Um, there's be links down below to my website, which will contain the full readings, uncommentated readings, and some reaction movie videos of movies, TV shows, and which I'm way behind on, also. Oh, the seizures make it difficult to do things. Um, but yeah, catch you on the flip side.